Okay, so after the Eagles' big win over Dallas, they got some pretty unfortunate news with Nakobe Dean apparently suffering a serious injury that's going to keep him out for a while. But is it really that big of a loss? Well, losing tight end Dallas Goedert certainly is, and it seems like the Eagles could get creative with how they replace him, as Nick Sirianni may have actually leaked some bigger plans for this former All-Pro with Dallas Goedert out. Also, A.J. Brown explained what was the key to fully unlocking his game and going on his historic run, while Jason Kelce revealed some of Nick Sirianni's epic motivation for the Cowboys matchup, and he also reacted to apparently being one of the sexiest men alive. And finally, the Eagles were just completely disrespected yet again. So we're going to talk about all that and more news in this video today, so let's not waste any time and get straight into it. So as the Eagles are in the midst of their bye week, they're sitting pretty as the #1 seed in the NFC, and they're not the only Philly team on top of their conference, as with a huge win last night over the Celtics, the Sixers sit as the best team in the NBA's Eastern Conference, which really, at the beginning of the year, nobody expected. So hopefully new coach Nick Nurse can follow in the footsteps of Nick Sirianni and fully change the Sixers culture for the better, because Sirianni has certainly done that for the Eagles. During his short tenure here, Sirianni has the highest win percentage by a coach in team history, and since his iconic flower speech, the Birds have barely lost a game, as they're 31-9 since then, including the playoffs. And a big part of that has been center Jason Kelce, as he's been here through it all. But not only does Kelce continue to win on the field, but he's winning off it as well, with Sexy Batman recently being named a finalist for People's Magazine's 2023 Sexiest Man Alive Award, and being featured in this year's issue of the magazine, along with some other big-name celebrities. I mean, I personally love this and thought it was hilarious, and the funniest thing about it, honestly, is Jason's reaction to it, because even he doesn't agree with it.
Like, are you actually one of the sexiest men alive, in your opinion? Because People Magazine says you are you?
I'm not even the sexiest man in my family, let alone sexiest man alive. I mean, what are we talking about here?
This is preposterous.
I mean, sure, while many, including Kelce himself, may see this as ridiculous, I see it as a huge win for him. I mean, it's no doubt still a big accomplishment, and it really does seem like Jason Kelce's just successful in everything that he does. And that includes his wildly popular podcast, New Heights, which of course he hosts with his brother and Star Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce, and in their most recent episode, Kelce discussed the Birds' matchup with Dallas, and he highlighted some epic motivation that Coach Sirianni used before the game to get the team fired up for the rivalry matchup, and it's pretty awesome. Listen to this.
One of the fans left a clip on sports radio WIP that was so epic that we had to share it in a team meeting.
Sirianni made this bulletin board material.
He put this out there to let guys know how important this game is to Philadelphia, and it did not disappoint.
I hate the Cowboys. Everyone who loves the Eagles should hate the Cowboys. Hate them, despise them, including the players. Sirianni's a motivator. He's all about culture. He needs to bring that back. He's got to get the team up, the players up, to hate the Cowboys, hit them in the face, knee them in the glory holes, as Jerry would say.
Okay.
You've got to bring that culture back. You've got to get them. Sorry, I'm pulling someone over. You've got to get that back and get them back. This is not just the game. This year especially, it's the division. This could be the home field advantage for the playoffs or not.
This guy was in the middle of this speech, was kneeing somebody in the glory hole, man.
Shout out to Peter for multitasking on the job, getting it done with a WIP rant for the ages on the Cowboys, as well as doing a service to our communities by pulling somebody over at a traffic violation.
That's what I'm talking about.
And it definitely got us fired up and excited to play the Dallas Cowboys. So way to go, Peter!
And shout out to Peter for doing his job and simultaneously firing the team up ahead of the Dallas matchup. And judging by this clip, it appears Jason Kelce took that speech from Peter to heart. But contrary to what many believed, which is that Kelce was screaming in the defender's face here, he actually explained that something else was going on.
Jason, why don't you tell the people what the you were doing?
I actually wasn't screaming. I was laughing as loud as I could in his face.
That's a laugh?
I was going like this. That's exactly what I was doing.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. I kind of blacked out.
Yeah, I gotta admit, Travis Kelce's right here. That was terrifying. Just like I'm sure it'd be terrifying for many to face Micah Parsons and a stout Cowboys defensive line in their first NFL start as a rookie. Now for Tyler Steen, I don't think he was terrified, but he certainly wasn't great in his first start, as in the game he had 35 pass blocking snaps and allowed 6 QB pressures and 5 hurries along with a quarterback hit, and he had just a 13.2 pass block rating, and then he had 27 run block snaps and just a 66.3 run block rating. So definitely not an ideal first start for the Rook. However, I do think it was a good learning experience, and the potential is still definitely there for Steen, who also did have some nice plays on Sunday, and I do think he kind of settled down a little bit in the second half. I honestly really don't think the numbers tell the full story here. I don't think he was that bad. I don't think he was nearly as bad as those numbers say he was. I mean, I don't know. I'm personally still confident that Tyler Steen can become a good player for this Eagles team down the road, and maybe he can even be a starter next year, but in the short term, it's definitely going to be nice to have Cam Jurgens back next week against the Chiefs. But while we're on the topic of guys struggling against the Cowboys, the secondary, of course, once again, did not look great, with specifically the guys taking snaps in the slot having pretty rough days, as the two rookies in Sidney Brown and Eli Ricks had just 35.3 and 30.9 PFF ratings respectively, so thank goodness that slot cornerback Bradley Roby will be returning after the bye. But someone who won't be back and is actually going to be out for a long time is linebacker Nakobe Dean, who just can't seem to catch a break as he suffered his second big injury of the season on Sunday, this time to his other foot, specifically being diagnosed with a LISFRANC sprain that will land him on IR once again. And this definitely sucks for Nakobe, who's really just trying to make the most of his opportunity as the team's starting Mike linebacker this year, and you really never want to see anyone go down with an injury, so prayers to Nakobe Dean for a speedy recovery. However, for the Eagles, this may not be as big of a loss as it seems, as when he's been on the field this season, Dean has really struggled, and as Outside the Birds put it, quote, Nakobe Dean was a legitimate liability in coverage and easily the worst cover linebacker among the three linebackers that have played significant snaps for the Eagles this season. Dean has allowed a 92% completion percentage and a 102.4 passer rating in coverage this season. That's the third worst completion percentage allowed by a linebacker with 100 plus coverage snaps this season, according to PFF. And in a later tweet, he said, quote, just to put it in perspective how bad Nakobe Dean was in coverage this season, he allowed a higher completion percentage and passer rating than former Eagles linebacker Nate Gary did in 2019. He also allowed a higher completion percentage than Gary did in 2020. That's definitely not a good look for the second-year linebacker. Now, I will say, I'm definitely not ready to write Dean off just yet. I mean, this is just his second year in the NFL, and I like to give players a little time to develop before I just come to the conclusion that they suck and they can't play. But it definitely doesn't help Dean's case that he can't seem to stay healthy, and for the Eagles, this may not be that big of a loss right now, as both of their other linebackers have been pretty good on the season, better than Dean in fact, and I'm really confident that both of them will be able to get the job done just fine without him. For the long term, if Nakobe Dean can't stay healthy, that could turn into an issue for this team, similarly to the situation with Avonte Maddox, as even though he's really good when he's out there on the field, he's just always hurt. Now, Outside the Bird seems to think that Howie Roseman needs to fix this by taking matters into his own hands next offseason, as he said, quote, Nakobe Dean and Avonte Maddox are supposed to be core players for the Eagles defense, but both players have proven they cannot stay healthy. Linebacker and slot cornerback need to be positions of emphasis for Howie Roseman in the offseason. I mean, I don't know, if those two guys can't stay out on the field, that statement may be true, but what do you guys think? Should Howie Roseman prioritize getting a new slot cornerback and linebacker in the offseason? Well, I know right now with Dallas Goedert being out for around 4 weeks, many people want Howie Roseman to go out and make a move to bring in another tight end, and while you can't completely rule that out, you do have to wonder what legitimate options the Birds would have if they did want to go that route. Regardless, it seems like Nick Sirianni is confident in what they already have, and it seems like they don't just plan to replace Goedert's production with just the backup tight ends, and they seem to have a different plan that would almost certainly get one of the legends that the Eagles have on their roster much more involved. So don't worry, we're going to talk about that and more in just a minute here, but real quick, I have to say, if you are enjoying this video or finding it informative in any way, make sure you go down and subscribe to the channel right now. Around 80% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed. If you're one of those people, you're consistently watching the videos, you're enjoying them, or again, finding them informative, make sure you fix that right now, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss when any other videos just like this are uploaded. I think that's a win-win for the both of us. Now with that being said, let's get back into the video. Now with some recent comments made by Nick Sirianni, some have speculated that he could potentially have leaked some of the Eagles' plans to use one of the newest Eagles in a much bigger role.
We like the guys that we have on this roster. We're excited about them. We're excited about them to get an opportunity. There's different ways you can supplement not having the tight end, having Dallas also. It doesn't just fall on Jack Stoll, Grant Calcaterra. It just doesn't fall, Albert. It just doesn't fall on those three guys, right? You can supplement it sometimes with different personnel groupings as well. And so, we feel like we have some good options. We know we have options not only with the guys in the room, but also guys that aren't in the room out of different personnel groupings.
So obviously Sirianni didn't name any names here, but when he says that they could use different personnel groupings to supplement it, I feel like everyone's mind should immediately go to Julio Jones, because out of all the wide receivers that the Eagles have on their roster that they could try and use to supplement Goedert's production, Julio seems like the most likely option, because as Martin Frank of the Delaware News Journal put it, quote, at 6'3", 220 pounds, Jones has the size, not to mention the speed, to work the inside of the field. Jones, 34, who's in his 13th season, has seen every type of coverage. As a tight end, Jones can line up against a safety and use his height advantage, or he can line up against a linebacker and use his speed advantage. Now, Frank also goes on to say, quote, there are also drawbacks, such as staying in to block or chipping on a pass rusher. That can be minimized to some extent by the Eagles going with 12 personnel, with Jack Stoll, who's known for his blocking, as a second tight end on the field. I mean, I'd say even with the drawbacks, I think it's still worth a shot to give Julio a bigger role in Goedert's absence. I mean, sure, he's definitely not nearly what he once was, but I still feel like he can contribute when he's called on. Now, I don't expect him to move primarily to playing tight end with Goedert out, and I don't expect replacing Goedert to fall all on him, nor should it, but I think at least in terms of a pass-catching perspective, replacing Goedert should start with Julio Jones. But hey, that's just my opinion. I don't know, maybe I'm just in love with the idea of a legend like Julio Jones being able to make a decent impact to my Eagles, but let me know what you think down in the comments. Should the Eagles give Julio Jones a bigger role in Dallas Goedert's absence? Now, someone who's been producing all season and needs to continue to produce with Goedert now out is wide receiver A.J. Brown, and we obviously know that he's been on a historic tear this season, breaking Calvin Johnson's record of 5 straight 125-yard games, getting to 6 in a row, and he's also become the fastest Eagle in history to get to 1,000 yards on a season, and going back to last year, he broke the franchise record for receiving yards in a season, so he really has been on a historic tear, really ever since he got to Philadelphia, and apparently that's for a reason, as A.J. revealed what has been the key to his game being fully unlocked since becoming an Eagle back in 2022.
But when I got to Philadelphia, playing alongside my brother Jalen Hurts, just having that just being comfortable playing with them, I feel like we can do anything and everything whenever we step on the field. We feel like we're the best in the world as soon as we step on the field, and everybody come to see us, and that's the mindset we have when we come out and play. So when I got to Philadelphia, I switched. I just turned on the switch, man, and just try to push myself even more, because of I'm playing along somebody that I care about.
You just love to hear that. I mean, we all know that Jalen and AJ are best friends, and playing together really has benefited both of their games, and it's just cool to hear AJ saying that playing alongside Jalen has pushed him to be better. I mean, I think it just really goes to show you how much they love and respect each other, and hopefully we can see this connection in Philly for years to come, because it's been really successful so far. And it's helped the Eagles get a lot of wins, and that includes this year, of course, with the Birds sitting with the best record in the league at 8-1, but despite this, the Eagles are still being doubted, with ESPN analytics showing that they're ranked as the 7th best team in the NFL, behind teams like the Cowboys and Dolphins, who they've beaten, and the 49ers, who are currently on a 3-game losing streak. And on top of that, ESPN analytics has the Eagles projected to lose their next 4 games. I mean, if this isn't disrespect, I don't know what is. And apparently it doesn't matter that the Birds have done all these things and they have the best record in the league, and they're just one of 4 teams in the past 30 years to start 8-1 in back-to-back seasons. None of that matters because they're the Eagles, so there's always going to be doubt and disrespect, but hey, what can you do? As Jalen Hurts said,
I had a purpose before everybody had an opinion. It's not about anybody else.
There you go. It's not about anybody else, and the Eagles just need to focus on their current purpose of getting healthy and resting during the bye, and then focusing on going 1-0 in their next game versus the Chiefs. So if you don't want to miss any coverage coming throughout the bye week or leading up to that Chiefs matchup, make sure you go down again, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Also, drop a like down below if you did enjoy this video and want to show some support, and leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. And if you want to watch a video recapping the Eagles' win over the Cowboys, you can go check this out right here. Now, with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.